sent to you. And then we will be on our way. The minister is present. There is a presentation. So I suggest we go right into that presentation and then we'll field questions afterwards. It's a presentation on the update insofar as the National Skills Fund and the audit is concerned, then that we had requested should be done. So I think, colleagues, let us get to it and then take questions after, because this meeting was supposed to have taken place 2 weeks ago, and Minister, to convey to you the committee's strong disquiet about how the committee was informed about the non-availability of the minister on the morning of the meeting, whereas we had sent the letter in good time. It was acknowledged and there was no indication to us that the minister was going abroad. And then on the morning of the meeting, there was a scramble, which amongst others not only wasted Parliament's time, but really robbed us of an opportunity to have utilized that day for something else. And so the committee was not very happy, actually, about how that postponement took place. It just did not augur well, particularly because communication had been sent in good time. And to add that during the course of the preceding weekend, our secretariat was still talking to the office, and people were just not available. On the Monday, they were not available. And then in the morning of Tuesday, we received the letter that the minister is abroad, as if it was something that happened in a blink of an eye. So that was one matter that I think should address now, because this meeting is not happening in a vacuum now. Right. So what we'll do then, colleagues, we're going to hand over to the minister, and the presentation will be done. And then, colleagues, we will take the questions after that. I hope that is in order. All right, Mam Tolashe, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. No, mine is on just to explain. My apologies, Chair. Good morning, everybody in the platform. I just want to indicate that I'm in a very serious challenge as network load shedding since early hours until now. I might lose you. Please bear with me. Otherwise, we have represented us very well in our consent as committee on what transpired in the last meeting. Thank you very much, Chair.
Right, noted, Mama. The ESCOM headache, ESCOM will not be happy with us in any case. But this load shedding nonsense really is a major inconvenience. But we are working towards submitting heightened applications for the committee to meet physically as well. And so next week, Tuesday, we are having a physical meeting on the road accident fund matters, because this virtual platform business in itself is not helpful. All right. Honorable Minister, let's hand over to you. And I hope that your team has been given the sharing right so that the presentation can be flighted. And then we will proceed to field questions afterward. Minister, over to you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair. Let me just get my view better here. Good morning to you and to all the honorable members of SCOPA. And thanks for the opportunity that you have given us today. But let me just start, Chair, by honestly apologizing on my side profusely about the mess up that happened last time. I don't understand why the apology would have been given on the same day. I'm going to actually check that with my office and take action where necessary, because I had known that I was going to be abroad. When the invitation came, I was going to be leaving and not be available. It should have been responded at the latest the following day. I must apologize profusely on that. The lapse was in my office from the look of things, but I'm going to check that. And that's not a sign of not treating this committee with disrespect. I have been working very well with Scopa, and I also respect all portfolio committees that require me to appear before them. So my apologies, Chair. And this is Zuluke Mashasha Twa ayidlibekela. Ngiyaxolisa kakhulu ngalokho. Ngizoyilandela lento uma kunesidingo ngokuyela kuwena ukuchaza ukuthi hayi inkinga yaba kuphi. But I would really commit that that will not happen again. Chair, with that then, allow me to just do a very brief introduction to the presentation that is going to be made by our Director General, Dr. Nkosinathi Sishi. Firstly, just to remind ourselves that on the 25th of August, I had briefed Scopa on the consequent management processes, corrective actions that I had taken regarding the allegations of malfeasance at the National Skills Fund, including the President's, Minister Mzwaledi, on the delegation of the President, having suspended the former accounting authority, the former DG of the department, who also is the accounting authority for the NSF. At that time, he was also at the same time the DG, as I say, of the department, Mr. Konde. And I do need to indicate, by the way, that his contract came to an end on the 6th of September last year, has already left the department. And also the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Matsagama, who we had also put on precautionary suspension since the 1st of August 2021, decided to resign from the NSF on the 30th of June 2022. And we now have an acting Chief Executive Officer since the 12th of August. I think when I appeared here, I might have already indicated that there was an acting person since the 12th of August 2021. But Mr. Matsagama, for your information, has resigned. Now, what I want to say, which is a matter that the DG also will possibly touch upon, but I want to put it up front, Chair, Honorable Chair, is that part of the process is going forward in the wake of having now received the report from the forensic investigators. There are a number of actions that we are going to be briefing you about. We're going to give you the summary of what the report says, and then the actions that we are taking. And that one of the actions that we are taking, the DG may want to add further to that, but I thought it's important that I say this upfront, is that we have established an independent legal panel to look into, amongst other things, how we deal with what comes out from the report as clear shortcomings on the part of the NSF leadership in this whole saga that we've actually been investigating, because it's pointing out that there are very, very serious acts of omission and acts of commission as well that should actually have been followed as far as we are concerned. But we have established this independent legal panel to advise us then how to deal with this. If in the process the panel advises us that even people who are gone, we will need to actually take action against them. We will indeed do so. But the DG then is going to be able to give you this. Now, officially now, there is a new accounting authority who is the new Director General, Dr. Sishi. I also just need to inform you, though it's not strictly speaking part of this process, Chair, that the ministerial task team that I had appointed, which was looking at the functionality and the operating model of the NSF, has actually submitted its report to me. I've just asked them to go and tie up a loose ends, which were not very clear to me. But it's basically done, and that, of course, I will be presenting it to the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, Science and Technology, because I did not just sit back, because to a large extent, what the Auditor General found is a reflection of the state of dysfunctionality and the structures and the operating model of the NSF itself. So that work is continuing. It actually has not stopped. And now I have given them the new DG to actually then deal and follow through these matters and indeed report to me. With that background, Chair, I'm then going to hand over to Dr. Sishi to take you through the presentation. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. I wait a report back on the inquiry into last time's meeting. DG? Right. Can we get the presentation, please, Director General?
Thank you very much, Chair. Excuse me, the system just kicked me out and I'm trying to load. Just 1 second. Chair, if it's possible that we load it from your side, I'll appreciate.
But Ben Stombi, please.
I think I'm sorted now. Okay. I hope you can see it from your side.
Yes, did you proceed? We've got it up.
On a presentation mode. Thank you very much. Chair, presenting ourselves before this committee is it's a privilege for us to get the opportunity to do so, and we thank you for giving us the platform. We present the briefing on the forensic investigation report, and we provide to SCOPA with the progress and update since the report was presented to the minister after the completion of the assignment as dated the 17th of March 2022. We present with an understanding, Chair, that ordinarily we will be taking you through the report itself, but understanding the the processes that are unfolding, I trust that the chair will understand that we will definitely share the report at the right time. At this point in time, still a sensitive document that we feel and we hope that the PowerPoint presentation provides all the information that we need to account to until we advise legally to do so. On the 25th of August 2021, our minister briefed the Standing Committee on the public accounts on the consequence management processes that he had taken and undertaken regarding the allegations of the malfeasance at the NSF. At that time, the accounting authority was Mr. G.F. Konde as the DG of the department, and the CEO was Mr. Matikama. My name is Nkosinat Sish, and I'm the new DG in the accounting authority of NSF, and charged with the responsibility to take this matter to conclusion. And may I personally commit, Chairperson, to ensuring that we bring back the good name of the NSF, and that South Africa is made proud of the kind of NSF that it deserves. And that those who are implicated, and at some point in the presentation, Chair, also going to indicate that our focus is not just the report and the recommendations of the forensic investigation, but our major focus is on the AG reports. It's on findings by the Auditor General, but also it's on our internal audit, reports. And in the terms of reference for the independent panel that is going to be, undertaking the work of finalizing the charges that I'm going to be giving to the implicated officials and giving them a chance to present themselves before the committee. I will clarify that in the terms of reference, I've also included broader other charges that are findings of the Auditor General. That the chief executive who was suspended has resigned must not shock the committee and think that people can just be let to leave the system. We made it very clear with the advice from our legal panels that if the chief executive is implicated in any way, he will have to come back and account. And therefore, that issue of accounting on these issues is not going to be affected by this issue of the resignation. And I have to assure you, Chair, in this regard. The minister, on the 18th of August, had appointed this committee to deal with the malfeasance that had been reported. Once the service provider started the work, it identified 10 projects that were chosen to cover a broader scope that include projects on infrastructure and projects on teaching and learning, projects regarding internships and learnerships. Clearly, I think the approach there was to make sure that the sample of projects that are investigated is representative of all the projects that are in question. And I think we understand this, but I think from the point of view of the accounting authority, once this is done, or once the report is done, it's important to understand that you have to also generalize these findings beyond the narrow scope of the 10 projects that were the focal point. so that none of those who are implicated in wrongdoing can escape the scrutiny of our investigations and the accountability that is associated with it. These companies that were identified cover a number of provinces, including KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Limpopo, and there are 4 of them from Gauteng who were identified. Now, parallel to this process of investigation, the minister also started a separate process wherein he appointed on the 1st of September 2021 a ministerial task team to look into the business process, because on the other hand, you want to hold people accountable, but Chair, on the other, you also wish to make sure that those who are there, exercise their duties, and that the governance of the entity continues to improve. So you can see that the minister adopted a multi-pronged approach, one of improving governance and the potential of the institution, but on the other, holding people accountable, starting from the accounting authority to the chief executive. Now the rest of other officials are to present themselves before the independent panel, which is going to be quick and swift, and we're looking forward to presenting to you further reports indicating the progress in that regard. The service provider took about 8 months to do the investigation, and a comprehensive report has been presented, which, in my own opinion, is a fair report and covers the expectations of the minister. If I look at the report and the terms of reference that were presented to the Nexus Forensic Services at the commencement of its responsibility. The minister, after studying this report, handed it to me for final determination. And as I've indicated, I've chosen that the legal units within the departments always are, not best positioned to deal with the magnitude of the forensic investigation that we are conducting, which constitute individuals that are not just the officials of the department, but they are service providers. Some of them that were not directly contracted by the department, but they were subcontracted by those who were appointed by the department. And I think in this regard, we are going to also provide the detail. The minister, having given me the responsibility to now take the matter forward, I have begun a process of ensuring consequence management and to address all of these findings, including all of the findings of the AG. And I'm working with the AG, who has been very helpful, Chair. I can report that the AG has conducted a workshop with NSF. As you know, that some of the issues that we were confronted with, which led to the adverse, opinion and the disclaimer, is the fact that some documents could not be made available to the Auditor General, and therefore, because of this, we are covering all the issues that the AG has raised in the terms of reference for the independent panel. Based on the minister's management plan, the management process is on course, Chairperson and honorable members of SCOPA. Parallel to the forensic investigation, excuse me. Next, on number 10, Chair, parallel to the investigation, after studying this report, we have the following objectives, the activities, outcomes, and timelines that seek to help the members of the committee to see what are the issues and what has been done by the department thus far. The determination and presentation of the scope of work was done and completed, and a brief to the service providers done, completed. Information gathering, analysis, and interviews by service provider are reported upon, and in the annexures to the report, you actually see those who were interviews, so that when we peruse the evidence, we can actually see if there is a need for the independent panel to look into that evidence to test its veracity. Requests for information issued, and all the interviews conducted and completed, and the submission of the initial report by the 15th of November, in local inspections conducted, and the final information collated, and that the final report and findings and recommendations presented to us, which was completed by the 22nd, but the service provider requested an opportunity to finish. And then later on, after looking at this issue, we allowed them to finish the work by the 18th of March, which was completed. And therefore, the minister presented with the report, which we are today presenting to you in terms of the summary that we are providing. The consequence management processes within the NSF include labor relations disciplinary processes that have started, and the recommendations that are now presented to the legal unit of our department, so that it becomes the basis for the charges to those who are implicated in the report. I wish to provide the chair and honorable members with a sense of what are the observations from the forensic reports, and I think that is the essence of the presentation. Some of the NSF stuff, in terms of the findings, Chair, have failed to do proper due diligence, as well as sustainability, in terms of the investigation that resulted in the incompetent entities being awarded funding that they did not deserve. I think in the report, the investigation provide us with details of these, and I think it presents us with an opportunity to be direct and identify the staff that is responsible, and that is the process, Chair, of consequence management that we are talking about. Site visits reports are provided or were provided, which monitor performance, but it did not interrogate fully and use as reasons to release the next tranche of funds. If, for example, a report would have identified poor financial management issues in the entity, you do not find that the department considers this issue when the second tranche has to be released, so that that which is the finding of the internal monitoring system is used to strengthen the oversight of the department over the entities that are the beneficiaries of this report, of the funding by NSFAS. This is clear, I'm sorry, by the NSF. This is very clear to us. Thirdly, also that funds deposited to these entities were immediately transferred to third parties, and this without informing the department. Therein, Chairperson, lies the whole issue of documents not being submitted to the Auditor General, because now all of a sudden, entities that are third parties, are part of the value chain without this being properly, in terms of our policies, reported to the department. And we will get back to this one because it's one of the reasons why NSF at the disclaimed opinion of the Auditor General, failure to provide documents in this regard. The NSF record keeping, is also identified and highlighted in the report as one of the big issues that needs to be looked into. The equipment that was paid for and was not delivered. This is clear, Chairperson, in terms of, consequence management and not only that, but also how we track each and every cent that is owed to the people of South Africa regarding beneficiaries who have not delivered the services that they were paid for. We also have seen, Chair, in the observations of the forensic report that some of these companies colluded to overcharge the entity, particularly those that were appointed to supply equipment. Collusion is rife between the companies whilst providing quotations. It is clear that the corruption that we are reporting does not only happen when the processes of NSF are in place. The corruption happens and it starts with the collusion in the processes for providing the quotations. And the report provides details in this regard. And I think it's not going to be difficult for us to clearly direct and hold accountable those that are responsible in this regard. Almost all the 10 entities that have been identified breached the provisions. And I think it's important, Chair, that we look into this particular issue at number 8, beyond just the 10. That is why I made this point earlier, that you choose a sample of companies to investigate. But if all 10 are found in one way or another to have breached the provisions of the memorandum of agreement, it therefore means we have to go beyond those 10 projects to also look into other projects that were there. And this is part of the terms of reference of the broader processes of the department as well. The NSF staff did not do thorough verifications where learners are to benefit. I think this is one area which needs to be addressed through the renewed business processes of NSF, because learners that are supposed to benefit from the funding were, in terms of the observations of the forensic report, not monitored sufficiently, and therefore conflict of interest is identified as well, where companies of some directors that NSF allocated funds to In turn, they do business with companies awarded funding by NSF. And I think this again is identified in the report, Chairperson. There are recommendations which give effect to stage 8 of the management plan. And I think, Chair, I will take you back to say almost all of the 10 entities breach the provisions of the MOA by not opening a dedicated bank account to deposit the funds from the NSF. And in this regard, in the recommendations, we also raise the following issues: that the Department of Higher Education and Training, as well as the entity, must take disciplinary action against the staff that were negligent and did not comply or apply their minds in doing their work diligently to the point of NSF resulting in receiving adverse audit reports of irregular and fruitless expenditure. This I can assure the Honorable Chair and members that we have also captured in the terms of reference, and definitely those who are implicated will be held accountable. But we also understand that consequence management also means developmental aspects. And in this regard, we also are going to make sure that where this is about incapacity, these issues are dealt with from the developmental angle of the consequence management approach we are adopting. Where necessary approach, the Directorate for Priority Crimes is going to be involved. I think the Minister has indicated that we are already working with the Hawks to making sure that where we suspect that there is any resemblance of collusion, we are definitely going to hand those issues, to the appropriate officials and with the capacity to do so. When necessary, we will approach the South African Police Services to lay charges where acts of criminality are suspected to have been performed. And in this regard, Chairperson, we have also captured, this in the plan and the program of action. The NSF, in terms of the recommendation, must blacklist the companies that overcharged for equipment that was to be purchased to facilitate skills development. I think we are legally well guided in terms of how this will be done. Chairperson, and work has already started in this regard. NSF must approach companies that did not deliver equipment yet, and they were paid for, and demand reinvestment, which therefore also means in the work that we do, we are also going to track the money that is owed to the department and ensure that each and every cent is paid back to the to the coffers of the state. NSF must release funds after satisfactory performance. Otherwise, no performance, no funding. Also, the subcontracting to third parties should be approved and managed fully by NSF and not be left to the entity. The subcontractor could not provide the records and documents needed for the analysis. I made this point earlier, Chair, to say we have identified this as a problem, that largely the documents that the Auditor General needed that were not provided to the Auditor General are documents which third parties needed to provide, and the department took long to get to those documents, and because of it, it limited the scope of the investigation by the Auditor General, and therefore led to the disclaimed opinion that the system received. Chair, allow me to, beyond this point, just share with you and honorable members what we believe are the critical developments that needs to be noted beyond this point. We have really guided the entity. The chief executive of the entity had said to us, one of the biggest challenges he has is the incapacity, and we are happy to see that vacancies are being filled, and the capacity of the entity continues to increase. And we are also presenting to you, Chair, in number 3, the fact that the NSF is showing signs of noticeable improvement from the 2021-22 financial year report of the Auditor General, showing a positive movement away from the 2 successive disclaimers to a qualified report, which we have seen. The legal unit of the department is in the process of finalizing. In fact, I'm well advised that that process is done now. And now we are ready to continue with the charges, which we've already drafted, which are ready to be looked into by the legal panel, which is then appointed to appropriate sanctions against all the officials of the NSF materially implicated in the forensic investigation. As the financial year 2021-22 results have shown, it is clear, Chair, that we have not done well still, in the fact that we are still qualified, but I would be happy to come to this committee and report further progress that we are making. This is our commitment, Chairperson, through our Operation Clean Audit that we have embarked upon. And we are working with the Auditor General in this regard. And we are very happy to report that we have this support from the AG. We have gone past the old NSF that would refuse to provide information to officials of the Auditor General. That is behind us now. We no longer have a situation where there's a place to hide for officials who have that kind of behavior. The NSF is in the process of developing a new audit action plan, and clearly the action plan that we had in the previous financial year has assisted us to a particular point. Now we are assisted further by the ministerial task team appointed by the minister in terms of recommendations for for how we are going to improve business processes, and some of the recommendations of the forensic investigation. The implementation of the recommendations are scheduled to be contextualized and implemented by the 1st of July. Already work had started, Chairperson, and here we are presenting work in progress with your indulgence. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
All right. Well, we note the presentation. It's quite rare that I find myself after a presentation confused and in the dark as I am now. Yeah. Honorable Hadeb, and your first.
Are you in the dark because of ESCOM?
No, because of the presentation. Honorable Mente, you follow after. Maybe there's information shedding as well on top of the load shedding we are dealing with. Right, Honorable Hadebe, Honorable Mente, Honorable Somyo, in that order, please.
No, thanks, Chair. Now, just to put you at ease, there's also information shedding on our side, Chair. And I would like to get the following clarity-seeking question before we proceed. Oh, by the way, I'm Becky Hadebe with an H, as already indicated by the Chair. In the Minister's opening remark, he indicated that indeed he has received the report, but however, he will be giving us an executive summary of the report and action plan thus far. Secondly, the DG as well, he indicated that ordinarily he will be presenting to us the actual report. However, given the sensitivity at this stage and the legal advice pending accordingly, they are not in a position to give us the report. The report was completed, Chair, on the 17th of March, 2022. It's almost 6 months now. The report, as per this presentation, its findings and recommendation are final. So that nothing will be changed in this regard unless challenged in court. Minister also indicated that upon studying the report, he then forwarded the report to the DG. Now the clarity comes in this format. The report was forwarded to the DG for final determination. I'd like to get an understanding, what is it that is being considered here as a final determination? When was this report studied and handed to the DG? Because we are now almost 6 months since the report and the final recommendation were issued. Are there any elements where you are not happy with the report? Are you seeking review or you challenging the report? What is the determination? Yet you have already implemented some of, I presume that the recommendation, because you also highlighted the action plan. Why are we not having a report before us at this point in time? I was expecting explanation or a brief indication in terms of these sensitive issues and determination. If I can just get that first clarity, Chair, because when you look into slide 8, Chair, if we can go to slide 8. Slide 8. Yes. No, that's not slide. Slide 8, where there are, okay, where the minister ought to have presented the report on the 31st of March, 2022 to the committee with its recommendation and action plan. This slide indicates that pending, minister is still studying the report for a final determination. Yet we were told the minister has already studied the report and forwarded it to the DG. If you look on slide 13. So can we just get clarity on those issues, Honorable the Chairperson?
All right, let's take the 3 sets of hands, because you see why I was saying, I mean, it's very difficult engaging here when you don't have a report. I think that's the dilemma. Honorable Mende.
It's precisely why, Chair, I'm asking this question to say why we don't have the report. What are these sensitive issues? Because it is clear that there are certain recommendations that are being implemented, and yet we don't have the report 6 months down the line, and we don't know when was it handed over to the DG for implementation. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mentor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to everyone. Honorable Adebe partly covered me. Chair, I do not understand this new culture of leniency with SCOPA. Here, the AG told us that there was maladministration, there was no value for money, and worst of it, there was no cooperation between NSF and the Auditor General, in a sense that they couldn't even access the information of the entity. We asked that all of this should be investigated by the SIU. The minister insisted that it's going to be investigated privately. We allowed that and still had the reservation that the SIU must do it. Today, a year later, it's a year and a month now, 13 months later, we still do not know what's happening. And we are sitting here trying to deliberate on nothing. There is no report that we are given. We're trying to deliberate on nothing. Chair, I think you need to guide us. And I think you need to be fair on us, because if we are to be productive, and if we are to serve our mandate and serve the South Africans want to know what happened to the funds that are supposed to be allocated to their children. We cannot be continuing with a meeting where there is no report. Reports in South Africa can be challenged within 3 months. If within 3 months you have not challenged them, then it's too late for anyone. This is not a report. This is what they think we need to know. We are very much capable of investigating and reading the report and actually interact with the department at a very productive level, where whatever they are suggesting or advising to do, we are able to say, this should be done this time. It has a time frame that should not be more than a week and everything else. But at this stage, it's a one-way. It's not a two-way. The SCOPA is not going to be productive in engaging the report. The SCOPA is not going to be productive in fulfilling its mandate. South Africans are not going to hear what happened to the funds which the NSF officials have stolen. What happened to the third parties and the list and everything? By now, we should have been the ones that have forwarded the questions to the department, which they have to answer on the third parties list and the equipment and the prices inflated and all these stories we are hearing. Chair, please save us. We can't continue without information. We cannot continue without the report. We can't be told that the report has sensitivity. Which determination is saying the report is sensitive? I'm not sure, Chair. Please guide us. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Honorable Mentor. Honorable Somyo and then Honorable Liz. And to say that, colleagues, okay, let me just hold what I want to say, so it's not seen as though I'm preempting the committee. Babu Somyo and then Babu Liz.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Good morning to the Minister and his team and their colleagues. You know, I was just as well sitting confused as you are, just in terms of the information. that wanting to interact with the report, I don't find any basis for doing so, because the report is not necessarily in our disposal, and the minister is to provide us with the report. I think one needs to propose that before any engagement with the minister, if we are to engage anytime soon, the report should be forwarded to us. Secondly, is that on the frame of actions to be taken, when we departed in the last meeting with the minister, there was an indication of engagement, which was going to be like a triangular engagement, where the minister or ministry would engage with the SRU in terms of a hybrid scenario to collaborate in the investigations which were going to take place. We were somewhat on record, if we can have those minutes, that the minister was to engage with the SIU on the following Friday after that meeting on the same matters. And I don't see it coming up even on the contents which were dealt with, whether before or after the report has been received. What I hear now is the appointment of what is called independent legal team after the forensic investigations, which is an indication that there is a deep, consistent expenditure which relates to this kind of investigation. When we highlighted in the first instance that if you engage the SRU is having the referral duties, has got powers to recover, and now the department is still thinking as to how to deal with these things, because they modeled their own approach in a manner they did, and a bit defective as it is, which is going to lead into a number of committees, this team and that team being formulated to look into the same report, while we as this committee, through our prudent advice, that the minister would engage easily with the SRU, which does have, you see, within its own basket, that arrangement of taking these responsible persons, individuals, institutions with such infringements to various law enforcement for some kind of being attended to. And now we're back into that stage. The third element, which is an element which is worrisome, is that the minister takes responsibility for this investigation and takes it away for what was termed then an accounting institutional, you see, a frame of the skills fund, and doing so because the minister was looking into the new framework of an arrangement which is going to differ into the current existing framework and the governance directives, and then the report is received, we're advised, and after receipt of that report, the same report is referred to the executive authority of NSFAS, of the National Skills Fund, and meaning therefore there's becoming a mismatch which would look as if it was a bit of a personal stint that no, this DG could be given this and therefore could act, and that DG who was the accounting officer could not be given this because so it creates some kind of a confused environment, something which we accepted at that time, that the minister remains responsible, whether talking about investigations or whether talking about the implementation of this sort of investigation, so that there is no double lines in terms of references in the manner in which this kind of work is somewhat done going forward. And the clarity is sought, therefore, within that environment in relation to the government's framework around that matter. The last one, just for now, refers to the fact that the DG is making reference to the fact that there is some engagement with other, law enforcement agencies, without looking to police, looking to the Hawks and so forth, just to implement the report, and at the same time, the minister is applying his mind in as far as the report is concerned, and the authority which came to us, the minister, is saying, I'm applying my mind in as far as the report is concerned, and I'll therefore look and see what is it that which have to be done one way or the other. So say it was small. You see, when we are given that form, you see, of a reporting line on these matters, and just to keep ourselves neat in this arrangement, I think we were expecting that report from the minister. We were expecting the actions in as far as that report is concerned from the minister, and because the basis of that action were laid by the minister to this committee, any diversion thereof is a diversion which moves away from the initial founding instance of such investigations. And as a matter of statement, such investigations came about, I think Honorable Mente is correct, came about because of our own insistence through visible inaction at the time of what was taking place with the National Skills Fund, and that insistence thereof drove to the mind that the minister should establish or appoint some investigative skills to deal with these matters. So it should not be lost in mind that as a committee, if necessary, some modalities ought to be engaged at some point as to whether this is satisfactory in terms of following up on what has happened in as far as the outcomes and the actual implementation and the reporting in as far as the report is concerned. Thank you very much, Chair.
All right, thank you, Babsam. Honorable Liz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's a hard act to follow. Mr. Chairman, the issues that we're facing, I think we can all agree about. But let me just say this, that it's not something unique to this particular ministry. This is something that has become pervasive with the current executive. And I experience it frequently with regard to particularly written questions to the Minister of Local Government, or whatever her proper title is, where the questions just don't get answered and information is not provided. There's the question of the Minister of Public Enterprises, who repeatedly refuses to give this committee the information regarding the SAA deal with Takatso, for example, a deal which is now over a year old. And there's just simply no information given to the committee or to members of parliament. And when I speak to my colleagues in my own party and some other parties, they experience the same sort of modus operandi and the way that Parliament is treated somewhat with disdain. I mean, we hear lots of words. The presentation this morning has been lengthy and there have been lots of words. There's no doubt about that. But we don't get the information that we need to be able to do the proper oversight that we are obliged to do and we failed to do in the state capture period. As members of Parliament, the Zondo Commission was very critical of the role played by Parliament. We know that some of us can't do what we would like to do because we don't hold the government and the majority. But the fact is that it is an obligation for all of us, no matter where our party allegiances lie. And I believe that whilst we are disappointed in the presentation this morning, it's not unique. And it's an issue that we need to take up in a much broader sense than just the National Skills Fund. And I would hope that we are able to do that as SCOPA on a non-partisan way. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity.
All right. Okay. Thanks, colleagues. I think pointedly, DG, because you're citing something along the lines of an opinion, what is the challenge? Oh, no. Because words matter, let me rephrase that. Why haven't we received the report? Or why haven't you sent the report? Because this investigation is at the insistence of this committee. To use a Zulu phrase, because you are now presenting to us and we've got nothing to juxtapose your presentation against. So somehow we must hope and pray in some form of faith that we are getting a roadmap which is consistent with the presentation, with the report. So that's why earlier on I was saying I'm hardly in the dark about things. I like to think we are all very level-headed here in this committee. And this is just unprecedented. So on the issue along the lines that you spoke about, an opinion or legal advice, why haven't we received the report? Because we want the report. Because the report would be running in tandem with audit outcomes and audit reports that we receive, because it directly arises out of the disclaimed audit opinions that you spoke about, in that we felt that the disclaimers were an indication of rot and that they create a conducive and enabling environment for corruption, and therefore you must investigate. And now the report is 6 months out. On top of that, we've been literally chasing after the department just to have this meeting. Even getting here on its own has not been without its meanders. And when we do get to this meeting, and colleagues, it was deliberate to allow them to expose their own modus operandi about handling this. So why is the report not handed over to us? So I think with that full set of questions that members have asked and the comments that they've made, let's get a response. And because I'm not sure what is expected of us, what must we say? Oh, okay, the investigation happened, the report is out, and then we receive this, I don't know, summary of a summary of a summary, really a few liners of a presentation, and we are none the wiser, because all that has been said is, in far as I'm concerned, would be an introduction as to why you needed the investigation in the first place, which is why we called for the investigation. So I think that clarity must be provided to the committee. Yeah, that's why I'm baffled, actually. Right, let's hand over to the department.
Thank you very much. I have tried to cover the questions from those of Honorable Hadebe, which was much more about the sequence from when the report was presented. The questions from Honorable Somia, who makes it clear that in his view, the committee is disadvantaged if the report is not tabled. And we are only discussing matters on the basis of the presentation. I have noted the comments by Honorable Lees around his observation of the trends amongst the government departments, and your own comments, Mashash, regarding how difficult it has been for us to have this meeting today. Earlier on in the comments that were made by the minister, I thought he did apologize that there were difficulties in the communication, but I think it's important for me as the DG of the department to make it very clear to your chair that we are not going to be that department amongst those that maybe give you the problems in accounting to these issues. We never thought that not providing the full report in this meeting means there will never be another occasion where we present the full report itself. But in our own limited understanding of your expectations and that of the committee, we thought what is important for the department is to show that once it received the report, it has started systems to making sure that those who needs to be held accountable are held accountable, and that processes that we are putting in place are processes that are able to help us to achieve this objective. With an understanding, Chair, that there will be another occasion where we provide this information in full, given the fact that at that stage, people would be charged already. And so the issues that concern our legal advice, around, protection of information, because remember, the investigation cites certain documents that it requires at some point, and such documents third parties could not provide. And at some point, with the work that is currently happening, those documents are going to be there. And when that happens, you will find that...
Honorable Chair, with greatest of respect, Can I please interject? And I profusely apologize for doing so, DG.
All right, this just hang 10 DG. There's a point of order by Honorable Hatebe. Honorable Mente, is that a new hand or a historic hand?
It's new, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Let's hear on.
Honorable Hatebe and then Honorable Mente.
Chair, we've asked specific questions. Why are we not having a report? DG, please respond to the question. We cannot manage that which we cannot measure. The report is detailed and it has final recommendation and findings. We need the report for us to do our work, to be able to measure whether or not what you are implementing it's getting towards the right direction. Right now, it's your word against what is contained in the report, of which we don't know. So the report, yes, it will help us to do our work. Can you please respond to question as posed?
Chair, with your permission, can I come in?
All right, Minister.
And then you can go back to the DG if you want to.
All right, just stand by, Minister. Let's just hear Honorable Mente because there are points of order run concurrently, and then you will come in. Honorable Mente.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, my point of order is on the issue where the DG says they didn't think the report will be required by now. They thought we want to hear what they are doing. Based on what? There is, I don't know, whether there was a miscommunication between your office and their office on why we should be meeting today. We're not meeting for what they think must happen. We are meeting for us to know the investigation which we asked their office to start and embark on, and what are the findings of that investigation. Then once we know the findings of the investigation, what is their office doing about the investigation? He can't come and tell us what is the office doing about the investigation without us knowing the findings. That's my point of order, Chair.
Okay, colleagues, just a clarity and then the Minister will respond. When we last met, we were informed that when the report is ready, we'll receive it. In planning for this meeting and calling for this meeting, we have never received an indication that the report is ready. So there's no miscommunication on our part. In fact, as I said, we should have met in June. And then we didn't meet, and then we were supposed to have met 2 weeks ago, and we didn't meet. In that entire time, in communicating with the department, there has never been an indication that the report is ready. I just thought I should provide that clarity to yourselves, right? Honorable Minister, and we'll go back to the DG.
Chair, thank you very much. Perhaps let me start by commenting on what Honorable Member Risu Mazambane said. I think let's deal with this issue that is before us and deal with it together with its own merits and demerits. I don't like this thing of generalization, because if you start doing generalizations, you're entering a political ring. Once you enter a political ring, then we are likely to be taken in all sorts of directions. To simply just characterize what we are presenting as being typical of what ministers in this cabinet are doing is a generalization, Chair. If there are things that members are unhappy about this report, let's deal with that as other members have done. Otherwise, I don't want to go into that. I don't accept the generalization around reports which they may not even be of a similar nature. I just thought, let me put that aside, Chair, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Let me just go to the heart, to the nub of the issue. That when I received this report and got briefed, firstly by Nexus itself. I then immediately handed it over to the DG. And I said to the DG, you have to act on this report. Firstly, my consideration, the difference between this DG and the previous DG is that the previous DG was implicated in the sense that those things happened under his watch. So let's not mix two things that actually do not mix. This is a new DG who is coming in coincidentally and for my luck, was not involved in all these previous things that were picked up by the Auditor General. The second reason why I hand over this thing to the DG, and Scopa should know this more than I do, there are certain actions that often requires to be taken in relation to reports that only DGs can implement. I can't be embarking on a process, for instance, of appointing an independent legal group of experts to actually look into the report. Those processes are done by DGs. So that is why I actually handed over to him, and also to draw in our chief directorate for legal to actually come in and advise. So I don't see this thing, the innuendo or suggestion that there was some personalized and selective approach on this matter does not arise, Chair, with that explanation, hopefully. But there are certain things I can't do as a minister, which are administrative in nature, which needs to be done when dealing with the report. Now, let me come to the nub of the issue. Maybe the DG and our legal team from inside the department may also want to elaborate on this, because I may not be able to use the legal language. In this report, there are names of people that are mentioned. Many of whom are found to be on the wrong. I then asked the question from the department that when you have a situation like this, how do we deal with this? Especially because of the following. And Scopa, whether you accept this, Chair, or not, but I hope you will understand the predicament that I am in, as well as the department. If you look at the forensic investigation and the findings, what it says is that some of the lapses are not in relation to the providers who have been found guilty, are as a result of inactions or acts of commission or omissions by the management of the entity, the NSF. Now, if you start mentioning, the report mentions people's name in a negative light, we might, down the line, that it might be proven that it was correct that those people were mentioned in a negative light because they are found to be wrong through due process. My advice then from the department, the legal team, basically says, Minister, we're a constitutional state. We are based on due process. If people's names are mentioned, some of the people here, the manner in which they are mentioned, it could be found that they are actually not the ones who are to carry the ultimate blame. Some may as well be, but it's because of the shortcomings from within the NSF itself. That's why the report also was trying to say, we are also going through internal processes, detailed internal processes, to also look at what the report says about some of the officials and where the gaps are. So the whole thing of not presenting the report here, we thought what we need to do is to say, having had and looked at this report, number one, we take the step of handing over this report to the law enforcement agencies. To say to the Hawks, for instance, engagements have begun between my department and the Hawks. I'm not the one who is dealing with that as the minister, but the department, by the way, that's another thing. That is why I hand over to the DG, because it's the department and his team who must then be engaging, start to engage, or prepare to engage. And it's not me who is actually going to do that as the political office bearer, as the executive authority. in the department. Then the law enforcement agencies will then be able to, where necessary, make further investigations directly with a view to prosecute or not to prosecute in some other instances, depending on whether the evidence is there and who to prosecute. Now, that's the due process that we are talking about. Now, we were advised, I was advised that to begin then to bring here this full report, which mentions people's names, before beginning to process the report, when we are actually a constitutional state governed by due process, may negatively expose the department legally. Presenting to SCOPA, it's not a private process, it's a public process, and giving the report to you, when in fact you may find that law enforcement agencies themselves, like it has happened, by the way, in the Zondo Commission report, may need to do some further investigation, which they and they alone are actually able to do in order to then arrive. Then at an appropriate stage, once all those processes have been taken, then it's obvious then who is wrong, who is not right, who is not right. To then, as a department, to be exposed to litigation, because people's names, the sensitivity that we are talking about is just that. That is the advice that I got. That SCOPA is a parliamentary committee with its own responsibilities, but where you mention people's names, be careful that you do not compromise the department, that we are actually subject to litigation. That is the main thing we have not brought the report here. And what we thought we would do today, Chair, was to then brief you to say, here are the processes that we are undertaking, which one is a process of engaging the law enforcement agencies with a report which they will treat in the normal way that they actually treat it and charge when they think that they are ready to charge. We are also undergoing our own internal processes in terms, the reason why we're having an independent legal group of experts is precisely to advise us through this process. And then we are able to take internal action in relation to staff in the department, whether that action also should end up being internal disciplinary or it should also be handed over for criminal investigation, that would be determined by this process. But Chair, what I would not concede or agree to is that there is anything that we are hiding, is that there is anything that we do not want to cooperate with the SCOPA about, and that this is a reflection of a general trend, and that is actually not the case, and that this thing is personalized around the DG who has left is incorrect. I dispute that. It's all because that DG was actually involved. That is the issue, Chair. Now, this is what we are presenting before the SCOPA. We thought we are doing the best, and this is the clarity that I am actually providing. And the reasons why we've actually taken this route. And we would really request that let's rather be engaged, or be questioned directly, not with innuendos, Chair, as if that, we are actually trying to hide. On my side, I want to say this. I have no interest in hiding anything about this investigation and about what is happening in the NSF, because I am as equally concerned about the fact that this is money that actually is primarily for young unemployed South Africans to be assisted to get skills so that they can be able to make sustainable livelihoods for themselves. But if you allow me, Chair, with your permission, I would really request this, that I might have put this not in the lingo that is appropriate, that I just ask the Chief Director, legal in my department, to just very briefly explain this component of my explanation about the risks that are facing the department in just releasing this report publicly. With your permission, Chair, can you allow that? And then we can be able to come back and ask further questions. Thank you, Chair.
No, we can
No,
get...
Chairperson.
Chair?
Yeah, stand by, colleagues, 1 second. I'll come to you. We can get the Chief Director's explanation But in essence, and the minister refers to this, the Zondo Commission report is public, and due processes will follow accordingly where it should. So the point for us is mute. People's names, they will understand the report. Because the issue, Minister, for us is that there were disclaimed audit outcomes. And we here in this committee called for an investigation. At some point, you will remember, Minister, members wanted the use of the SIU. We even facilitated that the department ministry and SIU must meet. Ultimately, an investigation took place and it has produced a report. The investigation is at our insistence. And we are settled here now not having the report. So I don't think we here in the committee agree with the sentiment that because there's people's names, obviously there's people's names, yes. But the Zondo Commission report that you refer to has released its reports in tranches, and nothing has been redacted from that report. And where due processes must take place, they take place. Where people want to send reports on review, they send them on review. The public protector issues reports and people take them on review where they should, and others are referred for investigation. So I just thought I should place that particular angle as well. So the Chief Director for Legal can stand by. They will come in now. Honorable Somyo Hadebe, and maintain that order, please.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Let's appreciate the minister's response. But that response would have been made only in one sentence. He chose to make it in 20 sentences. Where is the report? He would have responded better if he would have provided the fact that I'm going to bring the report in this day after I'm finished this, and then would accept that. Secondly, Minister, you came to us and said you are taking responsibility of the entirety of the process of investigations, finalization, all the matters that relate to what we have raised at the time. So it should not appear as if there are innuendos now. There's no innuendo. If there's innuendo, you are forcing us to do so. So please, your focus must be on what you said in this committee, not anywhere else. What you said to us, not anywhere else, that you are taking that responsibility. Secondly, if indeed the investigations have been finalized, what mandate have you given to those which you say must implement? And the dynamic which you agreed with to you and with you was that, yes, indeed, this conflation of a DG who acts as an accounting authority at the same time must work to look into how the work is being done by the entities is creating a problem. And therefore, we are getting into a particular route, which we appreciated. So it must not come as if now we're bringing something new. No, Minister, don't treat us like that. Thank you, Chair.
It's Hadebe with an H.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The presentation before us, Chair, stated that the report has final findings and recommendations. I hear the minister saying that there are names of officials implicated. It could as well happen that they are not responsible for some of the actions. Now, my area of concern, these are final findings and recommendations. I want to get an understanding whether or not the minister seeks to suggest that rules of natural justice were not followed in arriving at these findings as it relates to the audi alteram partem rule that no one should be condemned unheard. As such, the report further recommended investigation on some of the officials implicated in order to arrive at the final conclusion. Is that the case? If that's the case, then what is termed as final findings and recommendation calls for major and serious concern. Hence, I ask the question, are you challenging some of the recommendations in the report? Are there any recommendations that you're not happy about that you want to take to review? Do you still want to get further clarity on some of the recommendations? I do not think any forensic investigating team would commit such a blunder of not hearing the other side and arrive at the conclusion that will impact negatively on the integrity of certain individuals, precisely because these individuals might hold senior position within the department and currently continue to play active role in perpetuating that which is wrong, which needs to be stopped. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Menta.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the minister has just now confessed into not trusting his own process, which when he was advised otherwise, that take this matter to the SIU, he explicitly said he has procured services of a reputable firm to undertake this particular matter and reach its final conclusion. But when the final conclusion is reached, he once again implicates himself into saying, there are names of people whom I think they have nothing to do with the matter. Why then did we have to employ services of other people when the minister and the department are aware of who did what? Because if this is a reputable firm with a license to investigate, like Honorable Hadebe is saying, it would not mention anyone who is linked into this investigation as a person of interest and as a person who has flawed the rules and the regulations of utilizing the funds of this country. So the minister has just accepted that the firm is not a reputable firm. He does not trust the firm. He does not trust that the names which the firm has found out to be implicated in the matter are the actual names. And therefore, we are dealing with a matter that is never going to find its final conclusion. I equally do not agree. Why do we need an independent panel? Why are we going, after the independent panel, we are going to have another process. So this process is open-ended. It's a process that's open-ended. SIU undertakes all investigations, bring reports to us, and by the time the department acts, we know of what the SIU have done. We know of the names that are in the SIU, and those people will take the reports on review. But now the minister is taking the report on review, a report that he himself has instructed that it must be done. I do not understand. Is the minister saying to us, he is now saying there is a vote of no confidence into the report that he has commissioned? Is he saying that the firm has no reputation? Is he saying the firm has given him the names of people whom he did not want to see in the report? And therefore those names must be protected. Why should we be the ones being told today that the report has got names of people that should be protected? If those people who are working in the NSF and they are implicated in the process, there is no need for those names not to be said and mentioned here. There is no need for us to be doing all of this if there is no findings of what we have asked the department to do. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Let's get the Chief of Legal to come in to explain the legal advice that they preferred to the minister for this kind of approach, which we are saddled with now. Chief Legal.
Advocate Kuta.
Chair, maybe she's disconnected, I don't know, because she was with us earlier.
Okay, no,
maybe she's having.
Okay, can we get? They
She's
can check
having connectivity problems, but
can in the interim?
Yeah,
then
I'm sure someone from my office is checking on. I thought that perhaps, Chair, you could also allow me to come in for further clarification in the light of the issues that have been raised.
That's fine, Minister. Whilst we wait for Chief Legal, you can proceed.
Yes. First of all, Chair, let me say this, that I did say I'm taking responsibility for the process. And the reason why I was saying that at that time is because I had a conflicted DG. I don't have a conflicted DG now. The matter of whether the DG can be an accounting authority of the NSF, as I have said, that matter is being subjected to another process of the ministerial task team that is looking at the operating model. A process which I will take to the portfolio committee to say, here are the recommendations, and then I'm able them to take them further and implement them. I have no conflicted DG as things stand now, Chair. The previous DG was conflicted because these things happened under his watch. So I need to make it clear. And I'm taking I took responsibility for the process. Now that there is a DG, an accounting officer of the department, it's only fair that I refer the process to him whilst he actually comes back to report to me. That is why I am here and I've been able to introduce this report. Now, the question is asked, what mandate did I give the DG? I did explain the mandate. I said, study this report and come up with a process of implementing what is contained in this report. What are those implementations? I've already said the one is engaging the process of preparing to engage the law enforcement agencies. The second is actually to look at the internal staff members who may be implicated in terms of omissions or commissions in the NSF. And of course, thirdly, remember, we are also looking at, I've also asked the DG, get our audit committee. The Auditor General did not audit everything. Just like this forensic investigation chose 10 projects. Look at the entire issue of audit issues as raised by the Auditor General and other issues that may actually arise. Now, this links to this question that, with due respect, Honorable Mente, I'm the minister in this department. I'm the executive authority. I have a right, when I get a report, to say, these are the things that I think actually needs to be done. And it's not a vote of no confidence in the corporation or in the company that we actually asked to undertake this process. I have a right to say, to ask the question, to protect government and to protect my department. If names are mentioned, what are the implications of this? Because if it happens that those names, I didn't say they are mentioned wrongly. But if it happens, because the very same report points to the fact that the problem is not only with the people who are service providers, but also the weaknesses are at the side of the NSF. So on balance, if in some instances it's found that the problem is more with NSF officials than with the service providers, how do we protect ourselves from being litigated against for treating these things recklessly? I have a duty to do that as the member of the executive, Honorable Mentor, and I won't apologize for that, because I have to implement these things. I am the minister in the department, and I'm not doing it because I'm hiding. I'm doing it because I have to take responsibility where I can to ensure that I am able to protect the department. Also, I should clarify your point, Chair, that when I mentioned the Zondo Commission, I wasn't mentioning it narrowly in terms of names. I was mentioning that some of the recommendations were saying law enforcement agencies must do further investigation. That's the point I was illustrating. Just like in this case, we may take these things to the Hawks, and the Hawks will say, we're not ready to charge, but we will actually do further investigation. Surely let it be so. No one is actually going to stand against that. So the issue of the independent legal experts that I'm asking for as part of implementing this is to get proper legal advice. We're a constitutional state. We are characterized by due process. I have to satisfy myself that the actions that we are taking are not actually necessarily exposing department to negative litigation that we must actually be able to take. So this is the point that I'm only explaining. And I have not said that there are service providers who must not take responsibility. I have not said that. To say that I have said that actually is not to understand the very simple point that I'm saying, that as the member of the executive authority, I have got to say, as I've got to DG, make sure we implement this report. So that is the reason why, and that is why I was asking that let's hear our own legal person. As I have tried to explain, the DG also has tried to explain that we are actually running away from just unduly exposing ourselves. There is nothing that actually stops us from that. So there are no difficulties that there are certain service providers that I am actually protecting. It's just not true. I don't accept that. Thank you, Chair.
All right, let's get legal to come in. They back. Because we're gonna go around in nuance here and not substantively deal with these matters to a logical process conclusion. So is Chief Legal back? Or is there a report on their whereabouts?
If you allow, can you let the DG come in?
Right. Can we get an indication of where the legal is?
Noting that my questions were not responded to, perhaps legal will respond to them.
That's the indication one is waiting for, Honorable Hadebu, where is legal, because
Chair.
I make the assumption that a lot of what has been said hinges on the advice of legal. DG?
Chair, she's thank you, Chair. She's trying to connect. She has an issue with a connection. I think she's trying to get in now.
Yeah. All right,
I'm connected, DG. Thank you.
All right, let's get legal to give us rationale in terms of the guidance that or advice that they gave. And then we'll give a way forward, colleagues, on this. Legal?
Ms. Kota?
Good afternoon, good morning, Chair, and good morning, Minister and the DG and all the SCOPA members. I was not connected when questions were asked, so I don't know if I'm allowed to be given the questions.
The nub of the issue, is that we are not in possession of the report, and it is seemingly that it is on the basis of advice from legal that there are legal ramifications, including but not limited to people's names being exposed. And that's why we are not getting the report. So that is where we are. Can we start off with that? Because the committee, because the background is that this investigation was instituted at our behest. And the report has been done, concluded on now 6 months ago, and we don't have it. And it is seemingly though that legal was the basis upon which this modus operandi before us was employed to say we get what we got because of the considerations that you had about it coming here or being public.
Just to add, we are told that the recommendations and findings are final, yet there might be a possibility that some of the names implicated might not be responsible. The question was, when this investigation was conducted, could it be possible that the rules of natural justice were not observed? How is it possible that someone can be condemned without being heard in line with the Audi Ateram Patem rule? Are you challenging some of these recommendations? Is the report suggesting that there has to be further probe on some of the names that are implicated in order for you to arrive at the final recommendation? Are there names that are implicated where there is no final finding and recommendation? Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you.
You are muted, Advocate.
Chair. Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Mende.
No, just before the advocate comes in, she must also clarify us on the issue of the independent panel, which must now give a legal opinion on an opinion of a forensic firm with a reputation and a license to investigate and give findings. Thank you.
Chair, but can I just take that, because that's not for the Chief Director, that question by Honorable Mente.
Can you hang 10, Minister? Can we get the legal to respond, because they've got connectivity issues, and once they hear, let them respond to it, and you'll respond to that one afterwards, please. Legal, please, can you respond now?
Thanks, Chair. Can I start off by the last comment that it is not correct to say that the external panel of experts is going to give a legal opinion. That is not necessarily a legal opinion, but an indication of what charges should be preferred against which of these named individuals that are in the report. The second part is the report has not been shared with the implicated individuals, and therefore my advice to say it should not be made public, because we are wary of these individuals finding their names either in the public domain when they have not been given an opportunity to state their side. of the of the case. In the report itself, there are gaps when it comes to other investigations that still need to be taken. For example, in one incident, the service provider could not provide all the bank statements that were needed. And due to time frames, the report had to be finalized without getting those bank statements. And those bank statements might give something different if they were to be provided at that time. So therefore, it is not advisable to give this report out at this moment. It does not mean that the committee will not get access to it. It is just a cautionary advice to say, can you please ensure that all the implicated individuals are at least given an opportunity to see the report and also give their side of the story before we can then distribute it as widely as we can. That is what I advise the department to do. However, I must say that if the committee feels strongly that it could get access to the report even before the individuals are given that opportunity, I cannot stand in front of the committee's request. Thank you, Chair.
I think let's just clarify a few things. It's not about a public, it's not about a widespread spreading of the report. The report, rather the investigation arose out of a committee determination here. That's part one. Two, what's the legal basis of the guidance or advice that you gave? So rather, let's get that legal, because these things set into motion precedents. And thirdly, it's not really about feelings of the committee. It's saying we are being asked to consider a due process now in a vacuum. So I was hoping that, and then fourthly, you're speaking about people being given a fair chance to be heard on the report. Right, that might be but what is that period? This report is 6 months old, and it's on the back of disclaimed audit outcomes. I think it's the gravity of the situation which must not be lost here, that all is not well. We know that. That is why we insisted on the report, on the investigation. So I'm sitting here, I was waiting for some legal basis to be cited for this kind of advice, and I don't hear it. I don't hear it. It's a feeling that if the committee strongly feels about it, no, can't operate on the basis of feelings.
Honorable Chair.
Honorable
I had requested clarity on the following issue. We are told these are final findings and recommendations. Are there names that are implicated in this final findings and recommendation where people were not afforded an opportunity to state their case? Are there any recommendation in this report that seeks to suggest that further investigation must be conducted in relation to certain names for the department to finally arrive at a correct and proper determination that is legally sound? Are there such recommendations? Because we are under the impression, based on the presentation without the report, that these findings are final. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Samia, Honorable Mente.
Chairman, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Let's appreciate the advocate's report. Just to be unfair to her as well, but just to be direct, and that the issue here is based on the facts that the investigation is finalized when I will receive the report. And go, Chairman. Thank you so much.
Okay, Honorable Mente.
Chair, the report is going to be subjected to many processes. If a person's name is in that report, the department is going to take that person to the DC and equally open criminal cases where applicable, which I think all of them, they are applicable. And then the person will answer at that platform if they have knowledge of what's happening, and they will prove with those statements, bank statements and everything, that they have nothing that implicates them to this case. For the department to be trying at all costs that there are certain names that must not come out, and there are certain names in the slides of the DG that are saying, no, these people immediately when they got money, the money went out. But there are certain names they are sure of that they can't, like these ones cannot. I have a problem with that. The determination on who exactly must we report about and who should we not report about is most problematic. And that is why us as a committee, we must get our report and juxtapose what they tell us with that report. When this investigation was commissioned by this committee and by the minister, we were not expecting to get this kind of a response. Can we now cut all of this short and, Chair, through you, ask the SIU to take this matter forward? And fortunately enough for the SIU, even with the forensic part, which in their employ they do not have. Now we have a forensic firm that has already undertaken this particular investigation and have finalized it. Take that report, which is finalized as an SIU, and work on it. With the people that are not going to have to look for independent panel on advice of which charges must be now used to charge these people, which also I find it very problematic, because the minister earlier on said they are talking with Hawks and law enforcement and everyone, and now there's an independent panel that must also advise on which charges should be conveyed to these people. And I don't know, Chair. This, we're not going to talk for the whole day, and we are not going to engage a report that is very selective. It selected certain areas of their own comfort, but at the very same time, the very same department and the very same DG we are told is not implicated, very good, can select certain names, and then there are names we must not touch. How do you determine that? How? Thank you, Chair.
Is there a legal opinion which guided this advice? And
Can I answer that, Chair?
Yes, Minister.
Yeah. Chair, the legal advice I got was from my department. Did not go outside as yet. I asked from my department what are the implications of this. And then one of the recommendations they then made was that let's have an independent panel, legal, of experts to assist us in implementing this report. That is the process that I've actually undertaken. And Chair, also maybe to make your life and that of the committee easy. The invitation that we got did not ask for the report. It asked for an update of where we are. If you had specifically asked for the report, we could have then dealt with this matter differently. And if it's the report that you want, say so, and then we'll go back and look into that request that you make and consider everything that needs to be considered, and then we'll come back to you on that matter. That would actually make the life easy, because the invitation that I've got in front of me is talking about, we would appreciate to receive the overdue briefing document on these matters. Didn't say we want the report. Says a briefing document. And we have provided what we regarded as a briefing document, and with the best intentions. Let me also answer Ukhatebe. When we are Honorable Khatebe, sorry, when we are talking about a final report, this is the final report from the forensic investigators. Now, ordinarily, a final report from forensic investigators, it depends on what it says. It does recommend that certain things must be taken to law enforcement agencies, which means, therefore, the matter is not final, but it's their report which they've submitted to us, which is final, to say, we have gone as far as this and we've done everything that we actually should have done. I am sure that the report does point out actually that they did actually engage some of the people who are actually implicated. But we are not aware of the extent to which the report, for instance, might have gone into in-depth in relation to staff at the NSF. And that's not a vote of no confidence on this process. We then are saying on our part, let's then take these matters further as part of implementing this report. We have got confidence in Nexus. As a matter of fact, it was not the first time that we're working with Nexus. Nexus has helped us before on NSFAS matters to investigate those. It was out of, if I'm not mistaken, the work that they did that we decided that NSFAS must be centralized rather than be given through financial aid offices. We have got confidence in Nexus, I want to say that. So it's their report that is final. It's not the process that is final. That is why we are undertaking these processes, and that is why we are reporting what we are reporting to you. So the easiest thing for me, Chair, because you are right, so that you don't go round and round, round and round. If the committee feels that you must give the report, tell us that that is what you require, then we will go back, Chair, and deal with that matter and come back to you. Thank you very much, Chair.
No, that's fine. That's where I was headed to, Minister, because we're going to and fro. Because when we were last year, the commitment was that when the report is ready or done, we will get it. So we can debate the semantics and in whatever way, that is perfectly fine. So that being said, can we please get that report in 10 days as a committee, and then we will look at it, and then we will have an engagement and be updated further when we've got the particular context of what the report says, because the presentation of today speaks to that report, which we do not have, and therefore there's no measuring rod in terms of the merits and demerits of the plan that is there. And so we will take the matter then, we'll await the response of the department then in that regard. Colleagues, are there any other matters that you would like to raise on this matter?
Okay, can the 10 days, okay, can the next meeting be physical, Chair?
Yes, we'll make an application to the presiding officers for a physical meeting.
Great.
On this. So once we've received the report, we will look at it, and then we will schedule a meeting accordingly on that. Are there any other matters, colleagues, that you'd like to raise on this? All right, let me take this opportunity.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, Honorable Mende.
Yes, Chair. On the day, let's please have the SG and the SIU present. Please invite them. I mean, the AG and the SIU present. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the SIU and AG are here. They are present actually even today. I saw Mr. Lecheto earlier on, and I know AG is here as well. So that is perfectly in order. We will indicate, we will find a date agreeable in due course with also the presiding officers to grant us the permission to have a physical meeting because many committees want that, and because of the fire, there's limited space in Parliament. So if it's not load shedding, on the other hand, it's the limitations of the space in Parliament. But be that as it may, we will communicate in good time, Minister, so that we don't have further or any other sort of clash, and find an amicable date within Parliament's program to meet. So once we've received the report, we will consider it accordingly. And I reiterate, we've got a vested interest in that report because it arose out of the disclaimers which were of serious concern to us. And so precisely why we want it, and where action must be taken, we expect that it should, but we need to move from a basis of knowing where that action is required. So if employee X has been cited, we need to be in a position to know how far you're moving. Are they at work? Are they suspended? And so on. Because whilst these investigations go on, we are unable to track whether they are moving with the necessary speed. To make two examples for the minister, we had the Department of Public Works, and when they handed over a report, we found that the people who were implicated had, redacted their names and handed us a report. And when reading it up in the light, I was able to see, but this person is right here. People becoming players and referees in their own processes. We had UIF, an inability to tell us, cited people who's who. After a while, we found out the one presenting was implicated in the schedule of the unsaid. So it boils down to ensuring a transparent process and assisting the committee in its oversight responsibilities to ensure that people are not players and referees, and that things are actually being done correctly. So we will request that report, and then we will find a date. And so if there's nothing else on our side, I would like to thank the minister.
Chair, before that, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Summer, the minister will give you an opportunity to make concluding remarks.
Yeah, just to be fair to the department and ourselves, is there any time bound instance that the report is required and then the meeting could be scheduled thereafter? Maybe 7 days because the report is ready and so forth. Why can't we say within the period of 7 days we must be finished with the report, and then thereafter we have a meeting?
We said 10, Honorable Sonia. Maybe you had load shedding.
Yeah, we had made the proposal of 10 to the department. Minister?
Chair, no, it's your decision. We'd be comfortable with 10 because also it gives us time to actually prepare for that. I just want to conclude, Chair, by making this point once more. I am very committed to cooperate with SCOPA. I am as equally concerned, and in some instances, in fact, outraged at the nature of the Auditor General's report, the disclaimer on the NSF, given the importance of the NSF. I wouldn't like that when we engage here, an impression gets given that we are not cooperating or we do not want to cooperate. I am as equally concerned as Scopa. I am no less concerned, than you yourselves as Scopa is about going to the bottom of the monies that are for the National Skills Fund. We're a country that's short of skills, Chair. We're a country with high youth unemployment. The NSF plays a very important role. I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you very much, Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Minister. I think then on that note, we will get the report and all its, and I will follow up with the correspondence to the department by end of today, clarifying that and to say that the committee secretariat says we may be able to meet on the 27th of, I think there's a venue that's available in Parliament that can be utilized. So today is the 13th. So I think we'd still be within reason, but we will once if the venue is available as it seems it is, we may be able to then meet on the 27th. All right, let me take this opportunity to thank you, colleagues. Tomorrow it's all matters water. If I'm not mistaken, Sistombi put pen, that's right.
Yes, Chairperson.
Siphuza amanzi.
Umekhona. So it's all things water tomorrow. The meeting will start at 9:30 as is usual. So thank you very much, Minister, DG, and your respective teams, AG, Hawks, SIU. Thank you very much for being present, and of course, colleagues, thanks to you and our ever competent secretariat. On that note, the meeting stands adjourned and we'll convene tomorrow morning at 9:30. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members.
Thank you, DG. Thank you.
Yeah.
We welcome you with showers of
Siyakuphathisa kanzima kangaka kodwa. Mashasha.
kuzolunga. Uvumile wathi available. Zibambe iqine baba, zibambe iqine.
No, Sibongile. Rest assured, you have our support in this department.
No, ilokhu esifuna